what truly makes someone effective? I mean, whether you're thinking about personal growth or leading others through really complex stuff, is it just about grit? Pure effort? Or is there maybe a deeper path, something maybe counterintuitive, a specific kind of wisdom? Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we plunge into some really fascinating sources to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights, just for you. Today, we're embarking on a deep dive into some incredible material. We've titled it Wisdom for Growth and Leadership. We're going to unpack insights on, well, everything from personal development, overcoming those tough obstacles, to the power of teamwork and what really defines impactful leadership. Accountability, too.
Yeah, our mission today really is to cut through all the noise. There's so much information out there. We want to give you a shortcut, basically, to being genuinely well-informed on these critical topics. The goal is for you to walk away with actionable insights, yes, but also those real aha moments, the ones that shift your perspective. And all without feeling totally swamped by detail. Think of us as navigators, maybe, highlighting the key landmarks, helping you connect the dots.
Absolutely. And it really promises to be quite a journey. Our sources, they take us everywhere, from ancient fables, the intense training of Navy SEALs, all the way to the leadership of someone like Nelson Mandela. We'll even look at surprising lessons from, believe it or not, a hotel chain, and dig into a pretty critical historical medical mystery. So yeah, settle in. Let's unpack this. Let's see what wisdom we can uncover for you. Okay, let's kick things off with something we all face: challenges, problems. How do you usually tackle a tough situation? Is your first instinct just to push harder, double down on effort? Or do you sometimes find yourself pausing, stepping back, maybe rethinking the whole strategy? Because as our sources really highlight, overcoming obstacles, it's rarely a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
That's exactly right. And what's truly fascinating, as the sources get into, is how just a subtle shift in perspective can totally reframe a problem and, well, dramatically change the outcome. The material shows this really well, actually, starting with that classic fable, the two lumberjacks. So imagine two people, right, both chopping down trees. One just chops relentlessly, nonstop, convinced that sheer force, persistence, that's the only way. But the other one, they might notice, the saw is getting dull, diminishing returns, so they pause. They actually step away from chopping for a bit to sharpen the saw. Or maybe they even think, is there a better technique, a different angle, a better tool altogether? The fable, as our sources explain it, isn't just about work smarter, not harder. That's part of it. But it's really about that meta skill, questioning the very premise of what you're doing. It's that pause, sometimes uncomfortable, yeah, but it allows for strategic thinking. It means stopping the relentless, maybe inefficient effort for a moment.
That makes sense. And building on that idea, that strategic pause, the sources then give us a really relatable example. Almost mundane, getting bagels. You might think, bagels, how hard can that be?
Yeah.
But this little anecdote, it goes deeper. It exposes our often unconscious biases when we solve problems. We might just default to the known solution, right? Drive across town to the place we always go, even if there's maybe a better, faster, or I don't know, tastier option right around the corner. A new bakery, perhaps. What's really compelling is how, even with small things, we often solve for comfort or habit, not necessarily the best outcome. It really highlights the need to not just tweak your method, but to really look at your underlying assumptions about the problem, even for breakfast.
Exactly. And what's profound here, I think, is how these simple stories remind us that just jumping in, that initial uncritical effort, it isn't always the whole story. It really pushes us to look beyond the first solution that pops into our head, to consider the entire landscape of the problem. Which brings up a good question for you listening. Are you always seeing the full scope of your challenges? Or are you maybe sometimes too focused on just one way, the habitual way of tackling them? Do you actively cultivate that meta skill, that pause to sharpen the saw, metaphorically speaking, even when the pressure's on to just keep chopping?
Right. So we've looked at tackling challenges individually, often by reframing things, but what happens when you're not alone? What really unlocks potential when you're part of a team or even leading one? How much do you lean on others? And what happens when that reliance is, well, absolute? And that brings us straight to the strength in numbers, human connection, collaboration.
Yeah, expanding on that, the sources give us a really intense example, utterly compelling. Navy SEAL training. Look, this isn't just about individual toughness, physical or mental. It's an environment specifically engineered to force people to rely on each other under extreme pressure. In that kind of crucible, mutual support isn't just, nice to have. It's essential for survival, for mission success, period. Through that shared hardship, that undeniable interdependence, they learn that their teammates' well-being, their capability, it's directly linked to their own. It forges this really unbreakable bond. It builds a culture where asking for help, accepting help, it's not just a lifeline. It's standard practice, mandatory even. It's never seen as weakness. It's a fundamental lesson, really, in how deep collaboration isn't just effective, it's intrinsically tied to doing the impossible.
That's such a powerful way to reframe vulnerability, isn't it? It makes you think, how many opportunities do we miss, individually, collectively, by clinging to this idea of total self-sufficiency? Our sources really hammer home the huge impact of simply asking for help and accepting it. Not just in extreme situations like SEAL training, but, in our everyday lives, at work. It's such a fundamental human thing. It builds stronger bonds. It shows vulnerability in a way that actually fosters trust, deepens it. And it almost always leads to better outcomes than trying to shoulder everything alone. More efficient, more effective. Think about it. Asking for help isn't just getting assistance. It's initiating collaboration, investing in your network, creating a more resilient system around you. But I imagine for a lot of listeners, that fear, appearing incompetent, maybe, or burdening others, that's a real hurdle. Do the sources offer ways to get past that internal resistance, both for the asker and the person being asked?
They definitely do. The sources really emphasize that overcoming this often starts with a leader, or even just a peer, modeling the behavior. When someone influential openly asks for help, it normalizes it. It sends a signal, this is okay, it's even expected here. And furthermore, the material talks about fostering a culture of psychological safety. That's key, where people feel secure enough to admit they've made a mistake or they're facing a challenge without fearing blame or punishment. So this raises an important question for you. Where in your own life, your own work, could you unlock more potential, either as an individual or a leader? By actively embracing and modeling this mutual support, are there places where you could maybe proactively offer help, or where that small act of asking could open up powerful new possibilities?
Okay, so we've seen how individual strategy and collective support can really change things. But once you're part of a team or leading it, what truly defines good leadership? Especially when the stakes are high? It's a huge question, right? Countless books try to answer it. But our sources, they use some really compelling examples to cut right to the heart of it.
Well, the material presents Nelson Mandela as just a prime example of truly effective leadership. And it focuses intensely on his emphasis on, well, two things: listening and withholding judgment. He understood that real leadership, particularly in that incredibly fractured post-apartheid South Africa, wasn't about imposing his will, not at all. It was about genuinely understanding the diverse perspectives, often conflicting perspectives, of course, of all his people. By consistently practicing deep, empathetic listening and rigorously suspending his own judgments, even after everything he'd been through, he was able to build crucial bridges, foster understanding across what seemed like insurmountable divides, and ultimately make decisions that served the greater good, the unifying good. His approach allowed for this informed, profoundly empathetic leadership style that didn't just govern, it actually unified a nation through its toughest transition.
And that kind of leadership, that decisive empathy, it also demands something else, something equally vital: accountability. Our sources dig into a really compelling, though, grim historical medical mystery that just starkly illustrates the power of accountability. We're talking about puerperal fever, childbed fever. For centuries, this terrible fever just ravaged maternity wards across Europe, causing unimaginable suffering and death among new mothers. What makes this story so potent, as our sources detail, is that the solution, simple hand washing, was initially met with just fierce resistance, institutional resistance from doctors.
Right, figures like Ignaz Semmelweis, they were practically ostracized for challenging the status quo,
Right.
for challenging these deeply ingrained, frankly, ego-driven practices of physicians who just couldn't accept that they might be the ones causing the disease.
Exactly. So it's not just about hygiene, is it? It's a profound lesson in how professional pride, unchecked assumptions, and a systemic lack of critical accountability can literally cost lives, countless lives. And conversely, embracing that rigorous self-assessment, that accountability, dramatically improved outcomes. It showed the visceral, life-saving power of critically examining our actions, especially when lives are at stake.
And what's really fascinating here is how that leadership, that accountability, directly shapes the culture. It can turn something like a hotel into a global benchmark for excellence. The sources point to the Four Seasons hotel chain, a modern living example. Their leadership principles foster this incredibly positive, high-performing environment. And it's not by accident, it's deliberate. It comes through empowering employees, setting exceptionally high standards through trust, not just rules, and genuinely valuing their staff. This focus on the internal culture, respect, ownership, accountability, it creates this ripple effect. You get highly engaged employees delivering exceptional service, which builds an unparalleled brand reputation. consistent, positive customer experiences. It just showcases how leadership's commitment, unwavering commitment to both accountability and genuine employee engagement can define the entire success of an organization.
So what does all this mean for you, listening right now? How can you apply these lessons? The empathetic listening, the non-judgment, the rigorous accountability in your own circles, whether that's your team at work, maybe your community group, or even just the dynamics within your own family. These aren't just abstract ideas, are they? They feel like tangible, transformative practices that can fundamentally improve how you interact with people and the impact you have. Okay, so we've covered overcoming individual challenges, building strong teams, leading effectively with accountability, check, check, check. But what happens after success? When you've achieved something significant, what comes next? And maybe more importantly, how do we keep our bearings? Stay grounded in this rapidly changing world, especially with technology shaping so much.
It's expanding on that. Yeah, the sources really underscore that true, lasting success isn't just about reaching the summit. It's rarely a one-off event. It's fundamentally built on foundations of humility and gratitude. It's so easy, isn't it, when you achieve something big, for arrogance to creep in, or just to start taking things for granted. But maintaining genuine humility, that means staying grounded. Recognizing success is almost never a solo flight, and staying open to learning, always adapting. And gratitude, well, that helps us appreciate what we have, fosters stronger relationships, and it's a powerful antidote to complacency. These aren't just soft skills, they're crucial psychological anchors for sustainable achievement. They prevent the pitfalls of hubris.
Indeed. And as we lead and grow today, there's this other huge force, technology. Our sources take a critical look at its profound, often subtle influence, particularly on younger generations, and the implications for leadership, for personal development. In this digitally saturated age, it's huge. This isn't just about screen time in general. The material digs into specific shifts, changes in behavior, skills, expectations, all driven by constant digital immersion.
Yeah, things like attention spans potentially shifting, maybe changes in critical thinking when information is always just there, even altered social dynamics. The expectation of instant feedback, constant connectivity, it fundamentally reshapes how this generation learns, interacts, navigates the world.
Right, and that poses unique challenges, but also opportunities for anyone trying to lead them or even just understand them. It's a critical point for making sense of current trends and adapting how we approach things.
Which raises, I think, a really important question. How do we make sure that amidst all this progress, all this tech advancement, we don't accidentally lose sight of what makes us human, what makes us genuinely fulfilled? The sources wrap up this section with a really powerful, almost urgent call. A call for empathy and for the fundamental right to love one's work. These are positioned as vital counterbalances to the potential downsides of technology isolation, maybe dehumanization. They're highlighted as essential for deep personal fulfillment, for well-being, and frankly, for a thriving, connected society. It's about consciously creating environments, whether at work or in society, where people can find real meaning in what they do, and where understanding and compassion actively guide how we interact, not just efficiency or digital metrics.
So what stands out to you as you consider that balance? The relentless demands of the modern, tech-driven world versus these fundamental human needs. Connection, purpose, compassion, it's a complex interplay, absolutely. But one that really demands our thoughtful attention, intentional action too. And what a truly insightful journey this has been. Wow. We've taken a deep dive through these different but connected perspectives on tackling obstacles. We explored the undeniable power of teamwork, that mutual support, life-saving even. We uncovered the essence of effective leadership listening, non-judgment, accountability, and we carefully navigated how to sustain success with humility and empathy in our fast-paced, tech-driven world.
Maybe consider this as a final thought. If truly knowing ourselves, our default patterns, is the first step towards wisdom, then how might actively seeking out contrasting perspectives, especially the ones we initially resist, the ones that make us uncomfortable, how might that become our most powerful tool? Our most transformative mechanism for continuous growth. For breakthrough insight, it's more than just listening, isn't it? It's about having the courage to genuinely engage with viewpoints that challenge our own reality.
We really hope this dive has given you plenty to think about, maybe challenge some assumptions, given you things to integrate into your own journey towards greater effectiveness, better leadership. Until next time, keep digging deeper, keep learning, and absolutely keep asking those truly fascinating questions.